The first thing people noticed about the Weller Ranch wasn't the land, not the endless stretch of dry, cracked earth that seemed to swallow sound, nor the crooked fence line that zigzagged like it had been placed by someone half blind or half mad. It was the silence, not the ordinary kind, the kind you'd expect miles away from the nearest highway, but a silence that felt intentional, as if the place itself had learned to hold its breath. Eli Carter felt it the moment he stepped out of his truck. The engine died with a reluctant cough, and then nothing. No wind brushing against the brittle grass. No insects buzzing. Even the distant hum of civilization seemed erased, like someone had drawn a line around the ranch and decided sound simply wouldn't cross it. Eli shut the door slowly, his boots pressing into the dust. He looked out over the property. The house stood at the center, a low, weather-beaten structure with a sagging porch and windows so dark they looked painted over. A barn leaned to the side not far off, its red paint long faded into a dull, blood-brown smear. "This is it," he muttered, mostly to himself. He pulled a folded letter from his jacket pocket, smoothing it out. The paper was too old for something mailed just weeks ago, and the ink had a faint, rusty tint to it. "To Elijah Carter, you don't know me, but I know you. The Weller Ranch belongs to your blood, whether you claim it or not. It always finds its way back. Come before the end of the season, there are things you need to learn. No signature, no return address. Just that." Eli had almost ignored it. Almost, but curiosity had a way of digging its claws in, especially when paired with the fact that his mother, who had never spoken of her family, went pale when she saw the letter. She hadn't explained. She'd only said, "Don't go," in a voice that didn't sound like a suggestion. That had been enough to ensure he did. Now, standing here, he wasn't so sure. The front porch creaked under his weight as he climbed the steps. The door was already open, just a few inches, swaying slightly despite the complete absence of wind. "Hello," he called. His voice sounded wrong, too loud, too sharp, as if the silence was offended by it. No answer. He pushed the door open fully. The inside of the house smelled faintly metallic, layered beneath years of dust, and something older, something organic. The floorboards groaned as he stepped in, and the air felt heavier, thicker, like it didn't want to be breathed. The living room was sparse, a worn couch, a small table, and a fireplace filled with cold ash. On the wall hung a series of framed photographs. Eli moved closer. Black and white portraits. Families, men, women, children, all stiffly posed, their expressions hovering somewhere between neutral and uneasy. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. Then he noticed the pattern. Each photograph had fewer people than the last. One showed a large family, parents, 4 children, maybe grandparents too. The next, the same setting but missing 2 figures. The next, fewer still, until the final photograph showed just one man standing alone on the porch. Eli leaned in, squinting. The man's face was scratched out. Not faded, not worn. Scratched. Eli stepped back slowly, a faint unease creeping up his spine. "Someone here?" he called again. This time there was an answer. "Been expecting you." The voice came from behind him. Eli turned sharply. An old man stood in the doorway to what looked like the kitchen. He was tall but bent, his frame thin in a way that suggested not frailty, but something more deliberate-like. Pieces of him had been slowly carved away over time. His eyes were sharp, though, too sharp. "You Eli?" the man asked. Yeah, I am. You sent the letter." The old man smiled faintly. It wasn't warm. Letter finds who it needs. That doesn't really answer. "You came, though. That's what matters." Eli hesitated, then nodded. "I guess it does." The man gestured toward the kitchen. "You hungry?" The question felt abrupt, but Eli realized then that he hadn't eaten since morning. "Yeah, a little." "Good," the man said. "Been a while since I cooked for someone new." Something about the way he said "new" lingered in the air. Eli followed him into the kitchen. It was cleaner than the rest of the house, not pristine, but maintained. The counters were wiped down, the utensils neatly arranged. A large pot sat on the stove, its contents simmering quietly. The smell hit Eli immediately. Rich. savory, almost intoxicating. "What is that?" Eli asked, stepping closer despite himself. The old man stirred the pot slowly, deliberately. "Family recipe. Smells incredible." "It is." Eli leaned against the counter, watching him. "So, you gonna tell me what this place is?" "My mom never mentioned it. Never mentioned any family out here either. She wouldn't," the old man said calmly. "Why not?" "Because she left." Eli frowned. "People leave places all the time. Not this place." The old man turned, meeting Eli's gaze. "Not without cost." Eli felt a flicker of irritation. "Look, I didn't come out here for cryptic nonsense. I just want answers. Why did you send that letter? What is this ranch, and what does it have to do with me?" The old man studied him for a long moment. Then he smiled again. "You ever wonder why some recipes last longer than families?" Eli blinked. "What?" "Think about it," the man continued, turning back to the pot. "Names fade. Faces disappear. But a recipe, that gets passed down. Protected, perfected." "Okay." "This one," the old man said, tapping the side of the pot with a spoon, "has been in this family longer than any of us." Eli crossed his arms. "You're saying I drove all the way out here to learn how to cook?" The man chuckled softly. "No," he said, "you came here because it's your turn." A faint unease twisted in Eli's stomach. "My turn for what?" The old man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached for a bowl and began ladling the stew into it. The thick liquid slid in slow, heavy waves, chunks of meat and vegetables barely visible beneath the surface. "Sit," he said, placing the bowl on the table. Eli hesitated. "Eat," the man added, his voice quieter now. "Then we'll talk." The smell was overwhelming up close. It made Eli's mouth water, his hunger suddenly sharp and insistent. Still, something held him back. "What's in it?" he asked. The old man met his eyes. "Everything that came before you." Eli let out a small, uneasy laugh. "That's not funny. I'm not joking." The silence returned, heavier now, pressing in from all sides. Eli looked down at the bowl. Steam curled upward in thin, twisting strands. His stomach growled. "You're serious?" Eli asked. "About what?" This whole thing, the recipe, the disappearances, that letter." The old man leaned back slightly, his expression unreadable. "Everyone who's ever lived on this ranch," he said slowly, "has contributed to that pot in one way or another." Eli's grip tightened on the edge of the table. "That doesn't make any sense." "It will." A pause. "After you read." Eli stared at the bowl for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached for the spoon. The metal felt cold in his hand. "You first," he said, holding it out slightly. The old man smiled. "I've had my share." Eli hesitated again. Then, almost against his own judgment, he dipped the spoon into the stew. It was thick, heavier than it should have been. The spoon came up full, the contents shifting sluggishly. He brought it closer. The smell deepened, richer, darker. For a split second, something flickered in his mind, an instinct, sharp and sudden, telling him to stop. He ignored it, and took a bite. The flavor exploded across his tongue. It was perfect. Not just good, not just satisfying, perfect in a way that felt impossible. Layers of taste unfolding one after another, savory, sweet, something almost metallic, underneath it all, each note, precise, deliberate. Eli's eyes widened. "Jesus," he muttered. That's insane." The old man watched him closely. "Yeah," Eli said, taking another bite before he could stop himself. "Okay, I get it. Family recipe. That's wow." He ate again, and again. Each bite pulled him deeper, the unease fading, replaced by a growing, consuming hunger. "You see now," the old man said quietly. Eli nodded, barely hearing him. Yeah, I do." The spoon clinked against the bowl as he scraped the bottom. "More?" the old man asked. Eli didn't hesitate. "Yeah." The old man stood, taking the bowl and returning to the stove. As he ladled out another serving, his expression shifted just slightly. Not satisfaction, not pride, something closer to inevitability. Behind Eli, in the dim reflection of the kitchen window, shapes seemed to gather, faint, distorted, watching, waiting. Eli didn't notice. He was too busy eating. Ellie didn't remember setting the spoon down. One moment he was scraping the last of the stew from the bowl, chasing the lingering taste like something just out of reach, and the next, the bowl was empty. Completely empty. Not a streak, not a trace left behind, as if it had never held anything at all. He blinked. "I didn't realize I was that hungry," he muttered, leaning back slightly. The old man stood across from him, hands resting on the counter, watching. Not with curiosity, not even with satisfaction, just watching. "How do you feel?" the old man asked. Ellie opened his mouth to answer, then paused. He rolled his shoulders, flexed his fingers. "Good," he said. "Actually, better than good." That was true. The exhaustion from the long drive had vanished. The faint headache he hadn't even realized he had was gone. His body felt sharp, awake, like every nerve had been tuned to a higher frequency, and underneath that, something else, a quiet, creeping warmth spreading from his stomach outward, threading through his veins. "Yeah," Eli said, nodding slowly. "I feel great." The old man nodded once, as if confirming something already known. "Good," he said. "That means it took." Eli frowned. What took? But even as he asked, his gaze drifted back toward the stove. The pot. There was still more inside. He could smell it. Stronger now. Richer. Calling. "You said we'd talk," Eli added, though his voice had lost some of its earlier edge. The old man moved to the table and sat down across from him. "We are talking." "Right," Eli said, rubbing his hands together absent-mindedly. "Okay, so talk." A pause. Then, "Your mother wasn't supposed to leave." Eli's jaw tightened slightly. "You said that already. She broke something when she did." "What, like tradition?" Eli scoffed. "Look, people move on. That's not. She took her portion with her." Eli stopped. "What? What?" The old man leaned forward slightly, his voice lowering. "This ranch," he said. "This house, that pot on the stove, it isn't just a place. It's a system, a balance." Eli let out a short breath, half laughing. "Okay, now you're definitely not making sense. You felt it when you ate." Eli hesitated. "Felt what?" The old man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gestured toward Eli's chest. "The change." Eli swallowed, that warmth again spreading, deepening. It wasn't just warmth anymore. It was movement, subtle, but undeniable, like something shifting just beneath his skin. "I think I just needed food," Eli said quickly. "That's all." The old man tilted his head slightly. "Didn't stop eating." Eli blinked. "What?" "Stop," the old man repeated. "Walk away from the pot. Leave the house. Get back in your truck and drive." Eli stared at him. That's what you want?" "No," the old man said. "But it's what you think you can do." Eli pushed his chair back slightly. "Fine," he said, standing. "I mean, yeah, I can do that." He took a step toward the door leading back to the living room, then stopped. The smell hit him again, stronger than before. He turned his head just slightly, glancing back at the stove. The pot simmered quietly, the surface shifting in slow, heavy bubbles. There was more in there. A lot more. "You don't need it," the old man said. Eli clenched his jaw. "I know," he replied. But he didn't move. Seconds passed. Then a minute. The silence stretched. "You're still here," the old man observed. Eli exhaled sharply. "Yeah, well, it's just, go on." Eli hesitated. "It'd be a waste," he said finally, "to just leave it." The old man's expression didn't change. "Of course." Eli ran a hand through his hair, pacing slightly. "I mean, I'll leave," he added quickly. "Just maybe one more bowl, then I'll go." The old man nodded once. "Of course." Eli didn't even question how easily that answer came. He was already moving back toward the stove. The second bowl disappeared faster than the first. Then a third. By the fourth, Eli had stopped pretending he was going to leave. His movements had become sharper, more urgent. Each bite felt necessary, like something inside him demanded it. The warmth had spread everywhere now. Not just warmth, pressure. His skin felt tight, too tight, like it was struggling to contain something. you're adjusting quickly," the old man said from the table. Eli didn't respond. He was too focused on the pot. On what remained. "How many before you?" Eli asked suddenly, his voice distant, distracted. The old man leaned back slightly. "Depends how you count." Eli swallowed another spoonful. "The photos," he said, "in the other room. They keep losing people." "Yes. Where do they go?" The old man's gaze flicked briefly toward the kitchen window. "Into the recipe." Eli froze mid-motion. The spoon hovered just inches from his mouth. "You're serious?" "Yes." A long pause. Then Eli laughed. Not nervously, not uncertainly, just flat. "Okay," he said. "Sure." And he ate the spoonful anyway. The fifth bowl was when the pain started. It came suddenly, sharp. Eli doubled over slightly, gripping the edge of the counter. "Shit," he hissed. The old man didn't move. "Where?" he asked calmly. "My," Eli gasped, pressing a hand against his stomach. "My stomach, what the hell?" "It's making room." Eli looked up, eyes narrowing. "For what?" The old man didn't answer. Eli's breath came faster now. The pressure inside him had intensified, twisting, shifting, moving. Not like digestion, like rearrangement. "What did you put in that?" Eli demanded. The old man stood slowly. "Nothing that wasn't already yours." "That doesn't," Eli winced, staggering back a step. "That doesn't make any sense." "It will." Eli shook his head, backing away from the stove now. For the first time, the smell didn't pull him forward. It repelled him. "People don't just become food," he said. "No," the old man agreed. "They become something else first." Eli's back hit the wall. The room felt smaller, tighter, the air thicker. "You're insane," Eli muttered. The old man smiled faintly. "You still think you're separate from it?" Eli's stomach lurched. He dropped to one knee, coughing. Something rose in his throat, thick, heavy. He gagged, barely managing to turn his head before it came up. It hit the floor with a wet, solid sound. Eli stared at it, his vision blurring. It wasn't liquid. It wasn't even fully food. It was something in between, dark, dense, shaped wrong. "What the hell is that?" he whispered. The old man stepped closer, looking down at it. "That," he said, "is the beginning." Eli's pulse pounded in his ears. "The beginning of what?" The old man met his gaze. "Of you staying." Eli shook his head, scrambling backward. No, I'm not staying. I'm leaving." He tried to stand. His legs didn't cooperate. The pressure inside him surged again, stronger this time. He screamed. It tore out of him raw, involuntary. His skin, it moved. Not metaphorically, not subtly. It shifted, stretched, as if something inside was pressing outward, testing the limits. "You're part of it now," the old man said quietly. Eli clawed at his arms, his chest. Get it out, get it out." "It doesn't come out," the old man replied. "It settles." Eli's vision flickered. The room warped, edges bending, shadows stretching. In the reflection of the window, he saw them clearly now. The shapes, the figures, not just shapes, people, dozens of them, standing just beyond the glass, watching. Their faces were wrong, blurred, incomplete, like memories that had been half erased. "They're still here," Eli choked. "Yes, why?" The old man's voice was almost gentle. "Because the recipe remembers." Eli collapsed fully now, his body no longer obeying him. The warmth had become heat. The heat, something else entirely. A slow, consuming unraveling. His thoughts slipped, fragments breaking apart. "I don't," he started. But the sentence never finished. The old man crouched beside him. "It's easier if you stop fighting," he said. Eli's eyes rolled toward him, unfocused. "Please." The old man studied him for a moment, then shook his head slightly. "Too late for that." Eli's body jerked once, then stilled. The silence returned. the same silence that had greeted him when he arrived. The old man remained there for a while, watching, waiting. After a few minutes he stood. He moved to the stove. The pot still simmered. He picked up the ladle, stirring slowly. Something had changed. The texture, the color, subtle but noticeable. He nodded to himself. "Good," he murmured. Behind him, the reflection in the window shifted. One more figure had joined the others, clearer than the rest, newer. The old man glanced at it briefly, then back to the pot. "Welcome back," he said quietly. Outside, the ranch remained as it always had, silent, waiting, and somewhere, miles away, a letter was already on its way to the next name.